Hello, welcome to episode 241 of the Casual Try Hard podcast. He's James,
And that's Brian.
and today we're going to talk about Wilds of Eldraine, all the new cards that we're going to talk about.
Whoa. Yeah, this is our
So,
set review episode. We do one of these every time a new set comes out. Pretty much the same format every time. I hope you guys enjoy it.
yeah, so if you want to reach out to us on social media and tell us how you missed the old podcast, the 2022, the only thing good about 2022 is the Casual Try Hard podcast
2020.
episodes. 2020, yeah. The only thing, well, these last few years have all been pretty trash, but
Yeah.
yes, especially 2020. You can get on here on social media, Facebook, Discord, X, the artist formerly known as Twitter.
That's right.
And if you're an old young person, email.
Sure, yeah. We look at those too when we get them. So yeah, like Brian said, hit us up. All the links for all that stuff are in the description. Even if you don't follow the links, I'm sure you can find us on whatever your preferred social media device is.
Yes.
If you're looking to support the show, there's a couple ways you can do it. The first is with our TCG player affiliate link, CasualTryHard.com/TCG. Follow that link on over to TCG player. Anything you purchase after following that link, we'll get a cut of to help keep the lights on over here at Studio CTH. Doesn't cost you guys anything extra and would really help us out. So we'd appreciate it if you use that. The other way to support us is directly through our Patreon, patreon.com/CasualTryHardMTG. Patrons get access to our show notes, so you get kind of a sneak peek about what the upcoming episode's going to be about. Patrons also get access to our pre-show, which is a whole nother roundabouts hour of content out of us every week. We're old, and our equipment doesn't work sometimes, like today. So we spend a little bit of time making sure all our equipment's working. We also don't get to see each other nearly as often as we used to do. So we spend some time catching up. The pre-show is completely unscripted, unedited. We talk about whatever we feel like talking about. Sometimes it's magic, sometimes it's not magic, but it's all for the patrons. Patrons really seem to appreciate it. So if you're interested in that, you can sign up at patreon.com/CasualTryHardMTG. Chip in however much you feel like we're worth. We would really appreciate it. Oh,
Today,
mailing list too. Forgot about the mailing list.
I'm gonna say,
go ahead.
Good. Do you think?
Probably in September. Well, definitely in September. Roundabouts every other month. I get some tokens of our appreciation to send out to the patrons. So they'll be coming out sometime in September. If any of you guys want to get in on the sweet give back deals, sign up. Help us out.
Yeah, I was gonna say that the pre-show was our other version of CTH, casually talking hurricanes.
Yes, this one in particular was casually talking hurricanes.
Yeah, so with your host Brian and James.
That's right.
Let's look at some NOAA data.
We got Franklin turtling over off the coast over there.
There we go. There we go. Franklin doing his turtly thing.
Yeah.
All right. So we're gonna start with the gold signpost uncommons for limited.
Yeah, we like to do these before the set comes out because limited is typically the format that gets played first when a new set comes out. Limited affects your sealed pools for pre-release. People don't have the new cards, so they tend to draft a lot. So we like to get this stuff out there just to make sure everybody has an idea of what the draft format's going to look like. We don't get into super specifics. There's people that do that way better than us, but just to give you guys an idea.
And some of the signpost uncommons also are going to impact the rares and mythics in those colors as well, because sometimes they will all tie together. So you'll see, there's been first one that popped in my head was Shaman of the Pack.
Yep.
Right. Oh, hey, we're green black elves in limited, and that card got played in modern for
still sees play.
Yeah, for a long time. So those cards kind of always Mayhem Devil, another gold uncommon that is sees play in other formats. So these cards aren't always as valuable for limited.
Yep.
All right. So what do we got up first here? We got slides.
We got slides.
Oh man.
Yeah, ta-da. So the first limited color pair, they're all gold, so they're all color pairs, is blue-white, and blue-white in Wilds of Eldraine cares about tapping down your opponent's creatures. Not just actually tapping them down, but also cares about things being tapped or that like become tapped. So the signpost for this archetype is Charé of Numbing Depths. It's a 2 white-blue for a 2/3 Merfolk Wizard. When Charé of Numbing Depths enters the battlefield, tap target creature an opponent controls and put a stun counter on it. Whenever you tap one or more untapped creatures your opponents control, draw a card. This ability only triggers once per turn. So this is a 4-mana kind of Elvish Visionary that also locks down a creature for a turn, because it's going to draw a card when it ETBs.
I was trying to think. There you go. It is. Oh gosh, what is? It is like, remember Spire Patrol?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. It is like it's a ground-bound Spire Patrol that draws you a card.
Mm-hmm.
Right, Spire Patrol was a 3/2 flying. This is a 2/3. Like, that card was fine. Spire Patrol is getting retired from the cube because tap a creature, draw a card is better than tap a creature.
Yeah.
Like, very blinkable.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Yeah, no, this card seems pretty solid. Like, if this archetype is reasonable, right, and like this just kind of screams like tempo.
Yes.
Right, where you're gonna be like tap a thing. Okay, hope to win, and like if this lets you draw an extra tapper or like an extra flyer or something when it comes into play, that's just great.
Yep. Next up is blue and black, and this is going to be fairy typal control. I don't really like that word. Do we have to use typal?
I mean, I don't know. There was a big long Twitter thing about like why we're using typal now. I don't know.
Yeah.
But whatever.
Whatever.
So it is. Is it? I'm gonna say it. Abira?
Yeah, I think so.
Abira Dreaming Duelist. So it's blue-black for a 2/2 legendary fairy warrior with flash and flying. And whenever another fairy enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent loses 1 life.
Yeah. So fairies traditionally are like tempo-oriented, control-oriented. So this archetype isn't gonna like veer off too far from what the archetype like traditionally did. Back in Lorwyn, and then also rogues kind of did the same thing. So you can kind of think of this as like a rogues deck, but it's going to care about fairies and do tempo-y.
Yeah. So this is kind of like, it's very similar to like blue-black rogues in Pioneer. Like that is like that play style of deck is what this is doing. I think the biggest difference is like, at least on a construct, like there's not a good flash 1-drop fairy.
Right.
Right. So we have whatever it is. The 1/1 that like mills 2 cards when it enters.
Oh yeah.
Thieves Guild Enforcer.
Yep.
Right. There's not like a flash fairy that kind of does the same thing.
Right.
But like this is exactly how this wants to play. And like from the cards that they have, like it's been spoiled in the set, it seems like this could like be like pretty workable to the limited. There seems like there's a lot of fairies.
Yeah.
And it seems like all of them have flash.
Yeah. You mentioned something about not having a flash 1-drop. This style of deck does more than just play creatures, though. I think what you were referencing is like leaving up mana to either deploy a threat or interact with your opponent in some way. And you later on we're going to talk about this card, but we do have a pretty good 1-mana cantrip in this set.
Fair.
So maybe it doesn't matter so much that we don't have the flash 1-drop creature because we have Sleight of Hand.
Yeah. And also, like, if you're interested in playing fairies, like in, let's say, standard,
Yeah.
or like pioneer, um, right? We have, oh gosh, the 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 2/1 flash fairy,
Mm-hmm.
right? And if you think about rogues in standard, Thieves Guild Enforcer was a core set card
Mm-hmm.
that led into rogues in Zendikar Rising.
Yep.
So you could very easily see like a rogue or two pop up in, right,
Fairy.
like, yeah, like pirate rogue in, what's it called, in Ixalan,
Yeah.
right? Like that's easy.
Yep.
I think like in limited, like I said, it seems like they stapled flash on a ton of the fairies.
Yeah.
And you're gonna, even in limited, you're gonna be able to get to do the thing of like pass the turn, and like I can play like a counter spell or a removal spell or a threat if you don't make me use that mana otherwise.
Right.
Pretty consistently.
The other thing to make note of is that, and I'm going to mention this later on in this episode also, but we, a couple weeks ago in the James Comes Back to Magic episode after my vacation, we kind of broke down what the timeline is for Magic set releases, and we are going back to Lorwyn.
We are, yeah, that's
So,
a good point. And like in the pretty near future.
yeah, I mean, I think it's the end of next year or the year after, but
Yeah, so like
while this will still be in standard.
And like you could pretty easily, like if you were like, I like fairies better than the concept of rogues,
Mm-hmm.
right? Your blue black rogues deck could just take out all the cards that say rogues and put in cards that say fairies.
Yeah.
And be pretty good.
Mm-hmm. Yep,
so
definitely. Next up is Black Red, and this is Rat Typal Aggro, again with the typal. The card is Totenance. That's another hard one to say. Totenance Swarm Piper. It's 1 black red for a 2/3 human warlock bard. Whenever Totenance Swarm Piper or another non-token creature you control dies, create a 1/1 black rat creature token with this creature can't block. And then for 1 and a black, target attacking rat you control gains Death Touch until end of turn. So it's going to be rat aggro. There's a whole bunch of cards in this set that make these rat tokens. I don't know that there's anything that necessarily like rewards you for them being rats. Like there's one rare, right? But there's nothing that's like, all your rats get better.
I don't think there's like a rat lord.
Yeah.
Really.
Which is kind of weird because typically when you have like a tribal theme for an archetype, it's more cohesive than this. But I guess if they're calling this just like aggro with, a rat sub theme, then this makes
like where it's sense. Like it could just be like, it could just have been any random token.
Yeah.
They just decided to make them rats.
Yeah.
Like, and we are kind of in the realm of decayed zombies. Yeah. Where like I don't think the rat here is really like the rat's not really priced in.
Well, I mean it is and it isn't. Like you said, it could have been any token, but realistically you're not paying 3 mana for a 2/3 in 2023.
Fair.
And this like gives something Death Touch. I mean, it is an ability that you have to watch out for because it's just going to start like murdering things. But I don't think this card exists without this text at this price.
No.
So it's it's a little bit priced in.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that maybe we'll see some other rats that kind of are closer to like free, kind of like the decay zombies.
Yeah.
And like as we talked about last time, what is it? Bargain as a mechanic to sack a token.
Yeah.
Right. Like we'll get to use those. So like, if you have to like, sack an artifact creature and then get for something, and then get a rat out of it is not like a terrible deal.
Right.
But like the fact that the rats can't block, just like there are many times that like things in it was not Shadows over Innistrad, whatever. Midnight Hunt.
Yeah.
That you were just like, oh, like this is gonna die, and I'm gonna get a token, and then you're like, oh, this token is garbage.
Right.
Right? Like if you're like, I want to block with my Swarm Piper and I'll trade and I'll get a token. It's like you get a token that does effectively nothing.
Yeah.
Right? It's not going to stop you from dying, and it's a 1/1. So it's a little. The tokens seem weak, but it could be proven wrong. But if they're like, again, if a lot of them feel free, like here's the effect you would normally pay 2 mana for, and we just give you a token.
Yeah.
Right, then you're good.
I think at the end of this, we're going to do a quick limited wrap up with just some general gut impressions on the format. But a mechanic like this, because the tokens can't block, is going to skew aggressive. And if these 1/1 black rats that can't block are basically free and just kind of thrown in on a lot of cards, that kind of ups the value of like a Trumpet Blast.
It does.
Because all of a sudden these 1/1s that aren't good for anything will trade with something or just kill your opponent out of nowhere. So something to watch out for.
Yeah, like in that same vein, remember, Exert? Where like, hey, that format was super aggressive because there was one mechanic that did nothing unless you like attacked.
Right.
These rats do literal nothing unless they get into the red zone.
Yeah. Well, we'll give some thoughts at the end here. I think there's a lot of mechanics that are pushing that direction.
All right, so now we have red-green, which is the default. We don't know what to do with it. Red-green mechanic.
That's right.
Big ferocious creatures, so power 4 or greater. And we have Ruby Daring Tracker, which is red-green for a 1/2 legendary creature human scout. It has haste to Reno. And whenever Ruby Daring Tracker attacks while you control a creature with power 4 or greater, Ruby gets +2/+2 until end of turn, and it gets to tap for red or green.
Yep. So, like Brian said, red-green is normally monsters, stompy of some sort. When they don't have a good mechanic that fits the theme, it's always just ferocious, caring about power 4 or more. This seems like a pretty decent 2-drop. You're going to play it on 2, and then I guess I didn't actually go through the set file, but I'm sure in red or green there's a 3-mana 4/3.
Yeah, or like a 4-mana thing, really, right? You play this on 2, and then like you're at 4.
Then you don't get to swing with your 3/4, but
yeah. Fair. Yeah, like the generic or the 4/2. The generic just big 4/2 guy.
Yep.
Yeah, that used to be a vanilla, but now is like, I moonwalk and then like whatever.
Draw a card.
Yeah, moonwalk, draw a card.
Yeah.
And like on some level, this only costs 1 mana. So you can play another.
True.
You could play another 2-drop, and then on 3, like play this and then a 2-drop.
Yeah.
So you could like double spell the turn you play it.
Yep.
The wording is like, if it attacks when you have a creature, while you have a creature with power 4 or greater. So like, it's not like you could do like some attack trigger that would make your creature grow.
This isn't a trigger?
It's when the way I read it, maybe I'm wrong, is if it's declared an attacker when you already have a creature that is power 4 or greater.
Yes.
So like if you have like,
something that gets
like
+2/+0 while attacking. Yeah.
Yeah. This isn't gonna then get big because it wasn't declared attacker when the thing was big.
Right.
Is how I read it. So like you can't like, if you're gonna like sorcery speed a pump spell, sorcery speed it. Don't like wait till you're like declare attacker is now like pump my thing, because then you miss the window for this to get big as well.
Yep, I agree. That is my assessment as well. I thought you were going to say this thing shrunk if you lose the creature, and I don't think that's the case.
No, I agree there. It would just say a 3/4.
Yep.
For that term, but it's got to be there when you attack.
Yep. Okie doke. Next up is green and white, and these are, the theme is enchanted creatures, specifically rolls. White and green are going to play with the roll mechanic that we talked about last week a little bit. And the signpost is Sir Aramount the Redeemer. Sir Aramount is 3 green-white for a 4/4 legendary human knight. And when Sir Aramount the Redeemer enters the battlefield, create a monster roll token attached to another target creature you control. We went over all the rolls last week. I don't think we need to go over them right now.
Yeah.
But this also has enchanted creatures you control get +1/+1.
Gotcha.
So it's a lord for your rolls.
And that so that creature that you put the monster roll on is going to get effectively +2/+2.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Being 5 mana seems like
that's
a lot. But I mean, if you can like again get a bunch of rolls pretty easily, like then this kind of can become like a powerful finisher.
Oh yeah.
But like if you're already like augmenting all of your creatures, like you're kind of hopefully ahead of curve anyway. So
doing
like,
the thing.
You should be doing the thing anyway.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. It is funny going through this. It's like all of these are legends, aren't they? They just can't like not make cards legendary anymore.
Welcome to 2023.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, what do we got next?
Next up is Black and White. This is Bargain, Synergy, and Sacrifice.
Neva Stalked by Nightmares.
Yep.
So 2 black white for a 2/2. So big. With Menace, when Neva Stalked by Nightmares enters the battlefield, return target creature or enchantment card from your graveyard to your hand.
Well, that's fine. Rate though. I mean, 4 mana for a Gravedigger with Menace is above rate.
Yeah, and then whenever an enchantment you control is put into the graveyard from the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on Neva, then scry 1.
No, it seems pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's just like Gravedigger with like value.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's fine. And I guess it can just get like super big at some point.
Yeah, I mean, white has rolls like we talked about on the last card, so there's going to be some free enchantments floating around. And, you know, when the creature dies, the enchantment goes to the battlefield. And if you're bargaining, the creature's dying. So this kind of incidentally grows as you're like just using your game mechanics. So I don't know if it's winning any contest, but it seems solid.
Yeah, seems good.
Next up is Blue and Red. Blue and Red is instants, sorceries, and adventures matter. So it's spell slingers with adventures, I guess, which are instants and sorceries. The signpost for this is Johann Apprentice Sorcerer, 2 blue-red for a 2/5. That's a big old butt on this guy. Human Wizard. You may look at the top card of your library anytime. Once each turn, you may cast an instant or sorcery spell from the top of your library. And that would include adventures, right?
I do believe so, yes.
Yeah.
Because you could cast the adventure side.
Right.
Yeah.
But not the creature side, obviously.
But not the creature side. And you could do this on your turn and your opponent's turn as well.
Yep.
Yeah, as long as you you must pay its costs. Timing rules still apply.
Doesn't give them flash.
Yeah, very, very weird like reminder text.
Yeah.
But I wonder if this was like people complained about a similar card confusing them.
Probably.
So we're like, we'll put reminder text on it.
Well, I mean, it's not often that we get play from the top of your library at uncommon.
Oh, fair.
Like, that's normally a rare or a mythic that does that. So maybe they did it just because it's at uncommon.
Yeah. I do like the fact that the artwork looks like Mercurial Geist.
It does.
Yep. So like there seems like there's decent support, and if we can play adventures, there's just a ton of adventures laying around.
Yeah.
So like this could be like very, very strong in that regard. I mean, it is limiting. So like you could go like 2 or 3 turns and not have an instant of sorcery. Like usually the like uncommon instant and sorcery payoff is like I get +2/+0.
Yeah.
Or to like sling a bunch of spells and like kill your opponent. This is more of like a card advantage, like grind them out kind of card.
Well, it almost has to be though if you have adventures, right?
Yeah, true. But like it's just a different way of like built like a lot of times spell slinger decks are like you want a bunch of like cantrips or kind of like fluff
Mm-hmm.
for those like big like explosive turns. And this might be more of like you want maybe some higher impact, higher mana value spells
Mm-hmm.
so that you can like have big, big board impact with them.
Yeah. Also, like I mentioned, it has a big old butt, so it's
It does.
probably not going to die to damage if it takes you a turn or two to get some value off the top of your deck, and it's going to block pretty well.
Also, like kind of goes without saying, but like instants are way better with this, especially like in those situations where let's say you cast it on 4 and then you got like a 3 or a 4 mana instant on top of your deck. The fact that you could cast that during your upkeep,
Yeah.
and then get that extra card.
Yep.
And then kind of like play the rest of your turn. And like the divination in this set is at instant speed.
Yep.
So like that card kind of goes way up in value because like on my upkeep I'll play my divination off the top.
Yeah.
And then
draw 3 cards.
Draw 3 cards for the turn and then like be good.
Yep.
All right, what do we got coming up next?
Black and green is food synergy. We have Greta, Sweet Tooth Scourge. It's 1 black green for a 3/3 human warrior. When Greta, Sweet Tooth Scourge enters the battlefield, make a food. You can pay a green and sacrifice a food to put a counter on a target creature, so it doesn't have to be Greta. Activate only as a sorcery. And you can pay 1 and a black and sacrifice a food to draw a card and lose a life. This seems pretty great.
It does. Like, both things are things you want to do in limited.
Yeah, if you think back to Throne, the signpost Golgari uncommon was the Savvy Hunter.
Yes.
Was the same mana cost and the same stat line, but way worse.
Like Savvy Hunter was like when you attack, sack a food, put a counter on it, or sack 2 foods.
No, when I think you could sacrifice 2 food and draw a card.
Maybe that was it.
But like making food with it, I think was awkward, if I remember correctly.
Let's read the card, shall we?
It was like when it blocks, it made a food or something.
When it attacks or blocks, create a food.
Yeah.
And it's a 3/3, then sack 2 food, draw a card.
Yeah. Greta like is way better.
Gives you a food.
Yeah.
Can be a 4/4 right away. Like that food can turn into a card. Like, Yep. I have definitely played 5 mana, 3/3 draw a card, lose a life.
Mm-hmm.
All right, close to it.
Right.
And I've played 4 mana, 4/4 no text.
Yep.
Which this is also that.
Mm-hmm.
So like you have a lot of flexibility, and it's also your 3-drop.
Yeah, and there's also stuff that cares about sacrificing permanents and having foods, modifying your foods. This just seems really good. I expect this archetype to be Dece or Dece plus.
Yes.
So I'm kind of excited for this one. Excited to see what Limited's going to do.
Excited to play the Rock in Limited.
Yeah, basically. The other thing about foods is we mentioned with the rats, they're just kind of tacked on without being costed in. Foods are like famous for that. They're just like tacked onto a spell for free.
Yeah, they're just like, here you go.
Yeah.
Here is a game object. What could go wrong?
Yeah. I don't super remember Throne Limited. Really all I remember from that period is Oko. But there were lots of foods running around.
Had my least favorite limited card of all time.
Yeah, what was that? Revenge of Ravens? I thought that was Guilds.
Yes. No, Revenge of Ravens was that.
Was it? Was it Throne?
Revenge of Ravens MTG. Let's see. I'm pretty sure it's Throne. Yes, it is.
All right.
4 mana enchantment. Whenever a creature attacks you or a planeswalker you control, that creature's controller loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. I lost many games to being at like 3 with like 7 lethal attackers, and I was like, I can't attack.
Yeah.
Like they chump blocked for a while and then I died.
Yep.
Hated that card. Like rewarded you for being bad at limited. But yeah, no, I think that it that was the like monocolors mattered set.
Yeah.
With like the hybrid mana on all the uncommons. Or the
There
a
was a
lot of the
cycle of
commons
them,
and
yeah.
uncommons. But yeah, no, there were a lot of like free foods.
Yeah.
So all right, what's up next?
Next is red and white, and this is Celebration Aggro. So
Celebration.
Yeah, we talked about Celebration last week, so you guys should know exactly what Celebration does. The signpost here is Ash Party Crasher. It's a red and a white for a 2/2 human peasant with haste. And whenever Ash Party Crasher attacks, if 2 or more non-land permanents entered the battlefield under your control this turn, that's what Celebration is, put a +1/+1 counter on Ash.
So this counts him.
Right. And assuming you're playing this on 2, you also played a land. So this is a 3/3 with haste for 2 mana.
No, non-land permanent.
Oh, yeah. You're right. Sorry.
That's right. No, but like if you like, let's say you played this on 3,
yep,
and you went like 1-drop Ash.
Mm-hmm.
Now you got a 3/3.
Yep.
Or on 4 you double spell on 4, and if you're an aggro deck, like you want to double, you want to go like 1 2 3 2 2.
Yeah.
And like Ash being your like second 2 to be a 3/3 haster.
Yep. Pretty
would
good.
Be really good. So no, I think that Ash is pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Also, don't think he's gonna make the cube, but like as like a go wide like tokens kind of card where like your payoff is like you play Ash, then you play Raise the Alarm.
Yeah.
Attack, get a counter, then you play whatever heroic reinforcements, get 2 counters, get 2 tokens, put a counter on Ash. Like you can just kind of like have a bunch of cards that make 2 bodies and then make Ash bigger and bigger every turn.
Yep. Dragon fodder.
Yes, dragon fodder. Kranko's command.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Roused reinforcements. We're just gonna keep going.
Could go all night.
What the Mog card that vanishes?
Yeah.
Mog. It's a 1/1 that makes a 1/1.
Yeah.
And then goes away. Crap, I can't think of what it's called.
Yeah, I can't think of either.
Anyway,
it makes a guy when he dies.
Yeah, we lost that game.
Yeah. It's not Flunky, like right? Echo. Flunky deals the damage.
Yeah, but I think it has like there's one that has Vanishing that does that, and one that has Echo.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on.
Moving on to green and blue. Green and blue are big spells, so it cares about big spells. That. Yeah, the ramp colors. Who'd have thought?
Who would have thought?
The signpost here is Troyan. These are really hard names.
They are. That's why I'm letting you do it. I'm just like, go ahead.
Troyan Gutsy Explorer. It's 1 green-blue for a 1/3 Vidalcan Scout, and you can tap it to add green-blue, but you can only spend this mana to cast spells with mana value 5 or greater, or spells with X in their mana costs. So they have to be big spells to use this mana, and then you can pay blue and tap it to loot, draw a card, discard a card.
I mean, pretty good if you're alive long enough.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing is you got to be alive long enough.
We've definitely had a lot of like, hey, I feel like this is like aggressive thing.
Yeah.
And this mechanic seems aggressive, and it's like, please get the 5 mana and get a little bit of value. Please.
Yeah, I mean, what's nice with this guy is it'll ramp you into like you're ramping. That's the point of the deck, obviously, is to ramp. But the problem with ramp decks is a lot of times you'll either draw your ramp or your payoff, and there can be some pretty clunky draws where you don't get both. And this can help filter those draws with the looting.
Mm-hmm.
So while you're trying to fix your hand.
And again, it gets you from, in theory, like 3 to 5 or 4 to 6, like all on its own.
Yep.
So that's pretty all right.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's good. I think like I don't feel like the blue-green like ramp mechanic has come together
for
in
limited.
the last few like limited sets.
Yeah.
So I think it's getting harder with how like better creatures have gotten.
Yeah.
Right? Like
it's a harder balancing act.
Mm-hmm. Where like you like if your opponent goes 1, 2, 3 and like your 3-drop is a ramp spell.
Yeah.
By the time you get around to casting your big thing, you're at such a low life it's hard for you to stabilize.
Yeah. The big thing doesn't necessarily stabilize you because your opponent's just going around it.
Exactly. So like just because creatures have gotten so much better, I think it makes this a little bit harder as of late.
Makes sense to me.
But like it's fun when it works.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, casting big spells is definitely fun.
But I mean, I guess the last time it was really, really good was like Strixhaven was the last time that like when all you would do is like that whole format was just draft teamer giant spells.
Yeah.
Good times.
Those were some really good giant spells, and they kind of did the same thing because a lot of those giant spells had like pay a mana and discard it, make a treasure, so you can ramp into whatever else is in your hand,
or like deal 5 damage and like put a spell in your hand.
Yeah.
Like dome something, draw a card.
Yeah.
So, and like most big idiots are good if you draw a card on them.
Most cards in general are good if you draw a card on them.
I guess okay. I think that I thought this made them draw a card. I was thinking of Beanstalk thingy. Yeah, this just gets you there, so it's fine.
Yeah.
All right. What else do we got here?
Well, some general thoughts about the format. We kind of alluded to it a little bit, how like rats can't block, so that incentivizes attacking, because if you care about the rat as a creature and not just a game object, like you're going to be attacking with it, otherwise it just does nothing. The celebration mechanic cares about 2 things entering the battlefield, which kind of lends itself to going wide, which is definitely an aggro mechanic. You're not going to go wide and then sit around and wait to find out what happens next. And then adventures is kind of weird because they kind of reward tempo and grindy play, which is kind of counter to what the rest of the set seems to want to do.
Yeah.
And the fairies archetype is also pretty tempo oriented.
So if you remember in Streets, like blue, white, like flyers tempo stuff was just like kind of the only thing you could do. And like if that deck is good, it kind of like if the blue black deck is good, it kind of invalidates the blue green deck.
Yeah, that's true.
And like so like those like evasive tempo-y flyer decks can like sometimes have an outsized influence on the format because like they're playing creatures that are difficult for you to block, and like then they can just hold up their mana and catch like that one important like catch up spell, or like catch your bomb, and then like just like snowball their little advantages, like do the tempo thing.
Yeah.
But sometimes those tempo decks as of late have been a little too good.
Yeah.
In limited formats. So that's just a thing to keep an eye on. Like, if you're like doing your first or second draft, like I have a blue black card or a blue green card, maybe lean towards that tempo deck.
Yeah.
That blue black card, because they have like those kind of decks have historically been doing pretty well in like modern limited.
I had another kind of weird thought, and that was that the blue-white archetype cares about tapping stuff. But we have at least 2 archetypes that care about going wide. Which makes tapping stuff way worse.
way worse. I will tap your 1/1 rat.
No problem. I'll swing with 6 1/1 rats.
I will lose 1 rat and I will deal you 5 damage.
Yeah.
You are now dead.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like you do have that like tension of like is that going to be good?
Mm-hmm.
So we'll have to see. I am like I don't like the formats that just evolve into like 2 tempo decks
Right.
because like it just ends up being like blah.
Yeah.
Like the games simultaneously are like super like I feel uninteresting
Mm-hmm.
and like frustrating
Yeah.
because like it's like, oh well, I know this thing's getting countered.
Yeah.
Okay, they're gonna bounce this thing, and like they play out really similar,
Mm-hmm.
and like you like there are a lot of times where you're like, oh they went like 2-3 and now they've held up mana.
Yeah.
Like my 4-drop's never or my 4-drop's never gonna resolve.
Right.
Like I'm never gonna be able to get back in this game, and you're just like, I'm gonna jam my thing into your thing, and they're gonna be like counter it, and you're like, okay, like
Yeah.
like they just end up not being like the enjoyment and limited a lot of time is the back and forth
Yeah.
in the swings, and like if the tempo decks are too good, they get ahead, and then there is no chance for like a swing.
Yeah. They just stay ahead.
Yeah. All right. So for the listeners and the co-host, we are 40 minutes in. So I think we'll probably do like a color or 2 this week, and then
And split it up.
probably split up and do another color, and then finish everything off next week.
Sounds like a plan.
Because
I mean, the set's not going to be out until after that episode anyway, so.
yeah, plenty of time.
Yeah.
Because like I gotta teach my class at 8.
Yikes.
Yeah. So all right. So we are starting off with white.
We are starting with white. And we have, I think, the splashiest white card in the set as our
I think so.
first card here. This is Moonshaker Cavalry. It's 5 white, white, white for a 6/6 Spirit Knight with flying. When Moonshaker Cavalry enters the battlefield, creatures you control gain flying and get +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the number of creatures you control. The reason why this is splashy is because I think everybody immediately compared it to Craterhoof Behemoth.
There's a big difference between it and Craterhoof.
Yes. Well, I think there's a couple big differences.
Craterhoof itself had haste.
Yes.
Or like gave all your creatures haste or whatever.
No, it had haste and it gave trample, I think.
Yes. I know it gives trample, but like you got to attack with your Craterhoof when you played it.
Yeah, that is a huge difference because the Craterhoof was big and coming in, and this is not.
But like, there's a lot of times that like your opponent can soak up some of the trample damage, but oftentimes if you put like 4 or 5 things in the air,
yes,
your opponent is just taking all of it to the face.
Yeah.
Because they just can't, they don't have that many flying blockers.
Yeah, so that was one of the things that I had made a note about here, is that flying is a much better evasive keyword than trample is. And for exactly the reasons you just said. I think the other difference between this and Hoof Daddy is that green's the ramp color, and it's kind of trivial to find a way to get Craterhoof onto the battlefield, whether it's with a bunch of elves hardcasting it or flipping it out of your deck or any number of ways to do that. White does not do that though. So if you're not playing some sort of reanimation deck, you're trying to hardcast an 8-mana spell in your white weenie deck, I don't know if that's going to go so well for you.
I mean, I think that this card is like, again, they're like 3-year-long project to make white commander decks better. Right? Like, oh, we printed like kind of an over-the-top thing for like a go-wide token strategy in commander. Well, no, we don't have like, if you're red-white tokens, we don't have a big thing for you.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, Moonshaker Cavalry. Because like, I don't think it's it's not trivial to get to 8 mana in any format in white, but I think it's easier to do in Commander.
Yeah.
So, like, this is just a way for you to like kind of reward those go wide decks.
Yep.
But you are right. Like, if there's like, we have seen people just reanimating Atraxas for days,
Mm-hmm.
right? If there's some way for you to like stick, was it Resolute No, the one white flash creature that makes a 1/1 soldier.
Yeah.
Hey, if you can like figure a way to stick a bunch of those and like, uh, gosh, the connive white guy, Rafine's informant,
Mm-hmm.
and then some sort of reanimation shenanigans,
Right.
right? Like maybe that's like a thing you can do, but I am unsure. But this does feel like a lot of like, well, commander players in white need like a crater hoof.
Yeah, something to close the game. They need a
Yeah,
game plan.
they're sad.
Congratulations. Here's your game plan.
Here's your game plan. Get to 8 mana or cast Resurrection. The choices are endless.
Yeah. This is a pretty good thing to hit off of a Godpharaoh's Gift, though.
Oh yeah, to make all your stuff huge and smash them.
Well, Godpharaoh's Gift gives haste as well.
Oh yeah, so then it's just a flying crater hoof.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And gives all of your things flying.
Yeah, I mean,
your Stitcher suppliers, Rafine's informants, blah 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 blah.
Yeah, I do love me a good Godfarer's Gift.
Yeah. So maybe this is your new payoff instead of Angel of Invention.
Yeah, I think I just sold all my Angels of Invention not too long ago.
Yeah, they're pretty bad in 2023, I think.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
All right, what's up next?
Next up, we have the Regal Bunnicorn.
The bunny.
That's right. What was the Monty Python, the legendary black beast of... Is that what this is supposed to be?
Maybe. You froze for a second, but we're back. The was too powerful.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right. So Regal Bunnicorn is 1 in the white for a star. It has power and toughness equal to the number of non-land permanents you control.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if Vanilla Big is good anymore.
That was exactly my notes for this card.
Remember, oh gosh, was it Sisay, the green-white legend from like Dominaria, that cared about the number of creatures you controlled, but it was like that archetype was like green-white go wide.
Yeah.
With like sappy boys and stuff. It was fine, but it was like an uncommon.
Yeah.
Like, now granted, this gets you on your food and all your rolls.
Correct.
I mean, slapping a monster roll on this.
Oh, see, there you go. Now you got evasion.
Now I've got evasion. Like, it's not the worst thing, but like, not super excited about it. Like, I don't see it having like a home outside of limited.
It is kind of an interesting thing to put pants on because it gets extra big for every pair of pants.
It does.
So not that I think there's a lot of room in like the SRAM decks, but this would be a cute thing to put pants on because like you put an ethereal armor on it and it gets +2/+2, and then you put another one on it or like an all that glitters and it gets, math is hard, big. Like lethal big instantly.
It gets like gosh. +2,
+2, +3,
+6.
4, yeah, 6.
So it ends up being +6/+6 at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a little fragile for that, but
I mean, if you're drawing a card off of every aura,
yeah, it doesn't super matter then.
Yeah.
I don't know, like, it's interesting. It just like they couldn't give it anything. Like, it's white. Like, vigilance doesn't help any of its problems.
Right.
Flying makes it too good.
Ward 1.
I think Ward 1 may have like done a lot for it, but Yeah, but I don't know. It just doesn't seem like it like kind of lines up with like current power level.
Yeah. Cute card though.
It is. It is like it's a pretty sick name.
Yes, Regal Bunnicorn. The next one we have here is Spellbook Vendor. 1 and a white for a 2/2 human peasant with vigilance. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you may pay 1. When you do, create a sorcerer role token attached to target creature you control.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I thought this was interesting is it's a way to repeatedly trigger constellation, enchantress effects, or celebration if that ends up being a thing. One mana for +1/+1 on a creature, and you get to scry to find whatever you're looking for. That seems pretty good for a 2-drop.
Yeah, I mean, in limited, I think this card is secretly a 3-drop.
Oh yeah,
right? Because you play it on 3, you go to combat and you either put pants on your 2-drop, or you put the pants on the spellbook vendor if you're worried about like, some sort of like 2 damage spell or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, like as like a repeatable way to keep like getting triggers. Like I think this is really good for that.
It plays kind of well with the like enchantress decks too, because it like triggers at every turn. Like you can put, even though the rolls go away, you can still put the roll in the same creature every turn to draw your card or put a counter on a thing or whatever your enchantress effect is. So
yeah, it's kind of like a bad Luminarch Aspirant, like where you have to like pay the mana, and it doesn't stack, but like it's kind of that same kind of. It's like, how good is that first counter?
Yeah.
How good is the first +1/+1?
But Luminarch Aspirant doesn't make game objects either. Like I think the fact that this makes game objects every turn puts it kind of in a different category than.
Yeah, I mean we've definitely seen how powerful just make random game object is.
Yeah.
All right, so what do we got next? Stroke of Midnight.
Yeah.
Oh. 2 and a white for an instant. Destroy target non-land permanent. Its controller gets a 1/1 white human creature token.
Mm-hmm. So this is in the same vein as Late for Dinner, Beast Within. I'll say Magnify, but not that. Not
not late for dinner. Generous gift.
Yeah, sorry, that was the one I was thinking of. Generous gift.
Late for dinner is the reanimation spell.
Yep.
Yeah. So the difference between this and generous gift and Beast Within is they can get lands.
Right, but you're also, the token you're giving them isn't anywhere near as impactful.
Yeah, like a 1/1 is way less, right? Like, in limited, this is probably better than generous gift because turning anything into a 1/1 is pretty fine.
Yep.
Right. I mean, we remember our legitimate business person.
Correct.
But I don't really see a downside of this. Like this seems like it's on the border of like standard power level.
Yeah, I think so.
Like just kill a thing. And like the 1/1 probably doesn't matter.
I mean, like Anguished Unmaking was a very good card.
Mm-hmm.
And that was 3 mana, kill a thing, like dome yourself.
For 3. Like get hit by this 1/1 3 times.
Yeah.
Right. And you can like mitigate some of the damage by like play Stroke of Midnight in their upkeep.
Right.
Right. So you don't have to worry about the getting attacked as opposed to sorcery speeding it.
Yep.
Or like in their attack step, like just okay, the thing was going to attack me, like kill it. Now you have this useless 1/1.
Yeah, and like I think the last thing that you need to think about, not that I think it's going to be super relevant going forward from here, but white typically doesn't get to tag planeswalkers.
Not a ton. You have like, oh god. What was the one in the white? Destroy target creature or planeswalker, make a clue.
I don't remember that one.
Fateful Absence.
Oh, Fateful Absence. Yeah, that's right.
Like, it's fine.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's good. Like it sees a lot of play. I mean, this is in that it's one more expensive, but it's in that same vein. But
It
it
also
also
doesn't draw
like
him a card.
yeah, it also like gets enchantments and gets artifacts as well.
Yeah.
So it's kind of in the realm of oh gosh, think of what it's called. March of Otherworldly Light.
Yeah, I can see that.
Like kind of in that same area.
Yep.
But yeah, no, I think this is really solid. Like I would not be surprised if this saw like pretty consistent like standard play.
Mm-hmm.
And if you told me that like, hey, this is going to be oh gosh, I might see some like explorer or pioneer play.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was playing, oh gosh. When I was playing that like admittedly bad gate stack
Mm-hmm.
for like a week.
Yeah.
I was playing Mythos of Netherite
Yeah.
to have like generic answer to kind of like anything that my opponent played.
Yeah.
Like this is probably better than that, right? Easier to cast.
Mm-hmm.
Like it leaves them a 1/1, but like hopefully it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it gets swept up by your Gates Ablaze.
Yeah, and like, makes it so your mana's a little bit easier.
Right.
So yeah, no, I think there's a lot to like about this card.
Yep, me too. Last card for white is Werefox Bodyguard. 1 white for a 2/2 elf fox knight. It has flash, and when Werefox Bodyguard enters the battlefield, exile up to one other target non-fox creature until Werefox Bodyguard leaves the battlefield. 1 and a white, sacrifice Werefox Bodyguard, you gain 2 life.
This is what is he called? Why can't I think of the names of cards anymore? Like I see it. The transform guy that like eats that exiles things.
Brutal Cathar.
Brutal Cathar.
Yep.
Right. This is like a flash Brutal Cathar that doesn't have a backside.
Yeah, I'm the reason why I wanted to talk about it was because of flash though. Like I think flash on a card like this is important because it can really muck up combat.
Also, it doesn't say your opponent controls. So you can flash this in.
Oh, that's true. To save one of your creatures.
Eat your creature. It's
Yep.
like there's a wrath. If there's a wrath, you can flash it in, eat your creature, and then get it back.
Yep.
Or save your thing from a removal spell, and then if you really need to get that creature back,
mm-hmm.
then you just like pay 1 on the white and gain 2 life, and you get it back.
Yep. Double up your ETB.
Yeah, so it's kind of like it has like the regular like Brutal Cathar like way of playing,
mm-hmm.
but it also has the protect your creature way of playing, like kind of like wrath protection.
I didn't even realize like this thing's templated kind of strange because it's not an opponent controls.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a May, so it has to hit something.
It has to hit something.
And
can't hit itself.
And it can't hit any other foxes if you have another fox.
Yeah.
For reasons.
Because 2 of them would just like kind of bounce back and forth.
Well, it says oh yeah. Infinite ETBs, yeah.
Yeah, I think you can like just
that makes sense, I guess.
Right, like I don't know how I'm trying to think how many you would need to like, imagine you had like 3 of these and you like I may only need 2, but like one has one underneath it, then you like flash in one that eats the one, and then they just like loop.
Yeah.
So that's why they just want you to get itself.
Okay.
Kind of like why Resto can't blink an angel.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Yeah, and it's like
it's just
so this
fox is kind of an obscure creature type to exclude from.
It is. And this is the 1 paragraph templating, which means if you kill this in response, the creature never goes away.
Correct.
Right.
Yep.
As opposed to the 2 paragraph templating that if you kill it, the creature just goes away forever.
Yeah.
No, I think this card is good, and like it is nice that it gives you a lot of different play options, as opposed to there's a lot of times they design cards with like kind of like guardrails.
Right.
We're like, we don't want you to have a bad time, so we're going to eliminate all the like corner cases for you.
Yeah.
So, all right, we've got 7 blue cards and we're like at an hour. We could probably get through them in like 20 minutes. You want to do that? And then we'll finish up the rest. All right.
Sounds like a plan.
So we have, for our first blue card, is Asinine Antics.
That's a great name. Especially since the picture's full of donkeys.
Yes. 2 blue for a sorcery. You may cast Asinine Antics as though it had flash if you pay 2 more to cast it, so 6 mana total. And each creature your opponent controlled gets a cursed roll token attached to that creature, so they all become 1/1s. I mean, yeah. You have here like blue Wrath, and it kind of is. Or at least like blue, we don't care about these creatures anymore.
Right.
For a couple turns. So, yeah, I mean, this seems pretty solid. And it's like one-sided. It's not quite a Plague Wind. But like, if you have like 2 2/2s and you play this, like you've basically just like destroyed all of your opponent's creatures.
Yeah, that's like more stuck. What I meant was like blue doesn't get access to like a Wrath very often. And this is very close to a Wrath, I think.
As blue of a Wrath as you can get.
So would you rather have, as a blue Wrath, would you rather have something like this that's like a mass polymorph? Or would you rather have like an Aether Spouts?
When I said this is as blue Wrath as you can get, then I thought of Aether Spouts. I was like, oh, Aether Spouts. Or remember River's Rebuke?
Yep.
Like, I think that's better because you like... They get to put them back, but like the point of like an Aether Spouts or River's Rebuke is like you can use the tempo to your advantage to win the game. I guess this still kind of has the tempo aspect, where you've just like they spend all their mana on real creatures, and you're like, no more.
Yeah.
Now notice, the cursed roll makes it a 1/1. It doesn't lose abilities.
That's true.
So like,
I hadn't thought about that.
If your opponent has a Shieldred, you're still getting bonked for 2 whenever you draw a card.
Yeah.
So like,
it's a lot easier to handle a 1/1 than a 4/5 though.
Oh, absolutely. I'm not saying, but I'm just saying like, just keep that in mind that like the cursed roll still leaves it as they don't become legitimate business donkeys. Right. They are donkeys with attitude.
Sure. DWA.
DWA. All right. What's up next?
We have Chancellor of Tales. It's 3 and a blue for a 2/3 fairy advisor with flying. Whenever you cast an adventure spell, you may copy it. You may choose new targets for the copy.
This answers the question of what mana cost should Lucky Clover have been.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is too expensive. I don't think this is.
It is
good.
Too expensive and too fragile.
Yep.
Right? It just, all in all, feels ungood.
Yep.
Right? Like I was like half paying attention to like a podcast and they mentioned this, and I assumed it was like 2 or 3 mana. And now that I see that it's 4, I'm just like, I've hopefully cast a bunch of adventures by the time I got to 4 mana.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I don't want to save my adventures till I can cast this.
This is not the payoff you were looking for.
No. Like, it might be a fine limited payoff, but I don't think it's going to see any constructed play. But even in limited, it's a little like...
I don't even think it's a fine limited payoff. I think it's just not a great card.
Bad.
Yep.
Fair.
That's kind of why I wanted to talk about it. We don't always talk about the good ones. The next card is kind of interesting. It's a Extraordinary Journey. X blue for an enchantment. When Extraordinary Journey enters the battlefield, exile up to X target creatures. For each of those cards, its owner may play it for as long as it remains exiled. Whenever 1 or more non-token creatures enter the battlefield, if 1 or more of them entered from exile or was cast from exile, you draw a card. This ability only triggers once each turn.
Okay.
So I think we talked about this briefly last week or the week before, as just a way to like draw a card for your adventure creatures, Edgewall Innkeeper or whatever. But this is also kind of Quarantine Field. I mean, it's the same mana cost, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say it's almost Aether Spouts, right? Where like you're
I mean, that's another way to think about it.
You're like bouncing your opponent's creatures, and then they have to recast them. But
you draw a card instead of them having to draw the card.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you like refill your hand. I mean, it is. What is the? Oh gosh, March of Swirling Mists. Right, where you phase a bunch of stuff out.
Yeah.
Like this is also like 4 mana get 2, or not 4 mana. God, 6 mana get 2 blockers out of the way.
Yeah.
For like some sort of like alpha swing. So it has some flexibility. If it sees any play, I think it's like it sees play as like kind of like Edgewall Innkeeper that is harder to interact with.
Yeah.
But like again, like a card that gives you a lot of different corner cases. Right? Like, do I want to do this to like slow my opponent down and gain value? Do I want to use this to like try to kill my opponent? Like, do I want to use this as the worst sleep ever?
Yeah.
Or do I want to use this as like an overpriced Edgewall Innkeeper that again, like, will also pay you off on your opponent's stuff?
Right.
Right. Like you play this, and then your opponent like casts their Bone Crusher Giant, and you draw a card. Like you're probably okay with that.
So this not only cares if it was cast from exile, but if it enters from exile. So this would pay off like Soul Herder.
And yeah, just blinking in general.
Yeah. Kind of cute.
Yeah, no, it does a lot. But like I guess it's hard to know exactly what like a lot of cards you can say like here's how they're best going to be played. And I think this card would be best played like 3 different ways depending on what deck you're playing.
Yeah.
Right? Like Bone Crusher Giant's always best played of stomp something, play a 4/3.
Correct.
Right? But this could be like, oh, it's based on my hand, it's like Edgewall Innkeeper time.
Yep.
Or then, okay, well, on this hand, like I want to like blink one of their things to like slow them down. Or oh hey, now it's late in the game. I want to exile a bunch of their stuff.
Yeah.
So like it has a lot of different. Or like I want to build a blink deck. So then this is going to be like one of my blink payoffs.
Yep.
So it kind of does a lot of weird stuff.
Cool card though.
Yeah.
The next one we have is Farsight Ritual. 2 blue for an instant with bargain. So you can sacrifice something as you cast it. You look at the top 4 cards of your library. If this spell was bargained, look at the top 8 cards of your library instead. Put 2 in your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Not that I think this card is like interesting by itself, but it seems like more and more recently we're getting like a new dig through time in every set. So like number one, I just was curious how we felt about that like now dig through time is.
I was gonna say that remember when they printed Drawn Through Dreams or Drawn from Dreams?
Yep.
I bought like a bunch. I was like, oh, it's like Sorcery Speed dig through time. Like that's gotta have some utility. It does not. Right. But then now we have like Memory Deluge and this. And is there another one that
I think there is another one too. The only one I could think of the name when I was writing the episode was Memory Deluge.
And they all have the exact same mana cost. Right? Like, I think this one is worse than Memory Deluge.
I think so too.
Right? Like, if you're a control deck who usually plays this effect.
Yeah.
Right? You're not often going to have a token to get rid of.
Right.
Right? And would you rather have one crack at 8 cards or one crack at 4 cards plus a look at 7.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that like getting one card that gets you 4 over the course of a long game is way better than one card that gets you your best 2 cards out of your top 8.
I agree.
So like unbargained, this is the front half of Memory Deluge, and like thus far worse.
Yes.
It only like gets in the conversation if you can bargain, and then it is basically a slightly cheaper back half of Memory Deluge. So like I think like Memory Deluge is the best version of this card that you have in Standard or Pioneer right now.
Yeah, what about alongside like oh, what's that card? The 2 mana scry 2 draw 2 enchantment from Theros Beyond Death.
Thassa's Oracle. No, it's not the. Oh gosh, I want to say like, is it Oath of?
No,
not Oath of Thassa.
Yeah, that card.
Yeah, Thassa is something.
Omen of the Sea God.
Omen of the Sea.
Yeah, that's it. Omen of the Sea.
Because the green one's Omen of the Hunt.
Yep.
Omen of the Sea.
And the white one's Omen of the Sun.
It had nothing to do with Thassa in the name at all. Ignore the
Thassa,
picture.
though.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you could like play that and then have a.
Well, like those blue-white control decks play that card.
Yeah, I don't know. I still think that like Memory Deluge is just better.
Probably.
Right, like because usually if you play Omen of the Sea, you're playing it because you want to blink it with Yorion.
Yeah.
Like you don't want to like feed it to something else. So, right. Yeah, but it is weird that like this effect is at rare, but like we're getting this like kind of like we used to get the like 3 in a blue instant draw 2 cards set mechanic.
Yeah.
Right, we're kind of getting these at like rare.
Yeah.
At kind of like a similar clip. But I guess in their defense, Memory Deluge wasn't supposed to be legal when this card was printed.
That is true.
Right, so this was supposed to be the replacement for Memory Deluge.
Yeah.
And now this card is just going to have basically a year of being unplayable. And then I guess like 2 years of like, it is the
mediocrity.
Control. Yeah, it's the control, like 4 mana do a thing.
Yeah.
Right. So, yeah, I don't think this card has a high ceiling.
Yeah. The next one we have here is Horned Lock Whale. We talked about this one twice now, I think. It is 4 blue for a 6/6 whale with flash and ward 2. And Horned Lock Whale enters the battlefield tapped unless it's your turn. But the reason we're talking about Horned Lock Whale is because it's also an adventure, Lagoon Breach. 1 in a blue for an instant. The owner of target attacking creature you don't control puts it on the top or bottom of their library.
So one, looking at like Pioneer, I just looked at this card and like you just have an infinite number of like 2 mana bounce a thing or 2 mana interact in blue and red for adventures.
Yep.
Brazen Bar, Bone Crusher Giant, this guy. There's another card we're going to talk about that has a sorcery speed bounce. And there's another card that I don't think we're going to talk about that has a sorcery speed, I think sorcery speed bounce mana 3 or less.
Okay.
That's 1 in the blue. Like, they just decided that you weren't allowed to have creatures on the battlefield if you're playing a blue deck.
Yep.
Playing against a blue deck. So like I think this card like could find like a reasonable home in like some sort of adventure show where you just want to have this like kind of unbelievable card advantage.
Yeah.
Because like this is maybe let's say tempo neutral. Right?
Unless you can Lucky Clover it.
Yeah, but they get to like draw the card again, so you kind of like set them back a draw step, or you just kind of effectively get rid of it.
Yeah.
And then later in the game, you just have like a 6/6 chillin' that like they kind of have to like
ready to go whenever.
Yeah, but they kind of have to kill you before you have to resolve your like 6/6 that you drew off of your like I don't know.
Interaction.
Yeah. Is this oh, is it Warrant Warden? The like the split card?
Yep.
Like right, you had your like I think it was the Warrant
Mhm.
side of it where it was like 2 mana, like put an attacker on top of their opponent's library.
Yep.
Right. This is kind of the same thing.
Pretty close to, yeah.
Yeah, and then but that card didn't draw you a 6/6.
No, definitely not.
Also, what's his name? Aspiring Spike talked about this as like maybe the Karuga decks or the Cascade decks might not want to play this, but this is a creature that follows Karuga's restriction.
It is.
That also gives you like early game interaction.
Yep.
And also does not get hit by a cascade spell, but has like early game interaction.
Yep.
So kind of like a colossal sky turtle.
Mm-hmm.
So like it has spots to be useful. And like I think cards like this and some of the other ones we're going to talk about is really going to show like exactly how busted of a mechanic is Adventures.
I think we have an idea, but
yeah, but like if you're willing to play like a medium bounce spell that draws you a medium-ish finisher.
Yeah.
Right? Like Adventures is probably too good of a mechanic.
Yeah. We will find out.
We will.
The next one we have here is Mocking Sprite. 2 and a blue for a 2/1 fairy rogue with flying, and instant and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast.
I mean, I like a good Goblin Electromancer.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it costs more than Goblin Electromancer, but Goblin Electromancer
is not currently standard legal.
Correct. This also makes your adventures cheaper, if that matters.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, it is a fairy rogue for
fairy reasons.
You know, fairly obvious reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, like we've not had like a really good like blue red just cast a bunch of spells archetype.
Yeah.
For a while in like standard, and like this is the kind of card that usually would support that kind of archetype.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like it seems good. It's probably a little too expensive for other formats just because we have like a very similar card in we have Baral.
Yes.
It's just blue. And then we have Goblin Electromancer that is blue red.
Yep.
But like this could find a home like in standard somewhere, like some like kind of crazy
Electromancer
deck.
Isn't common though, right?
Feel like it might be, but I could be wrong. This happened before. I think it is. Survey says it is common.
Oh, okay.
It was common in RTR.
Gotcha.
And it was common in guilds.
Oh, alrighty then.
So he's just been a common boy for a long time.
Yep, forever.
But like in Popper, if you're like looking to
double up the effect or something.
Yeah, to like storm off.
Yeah.
And I guess I know what your storm payoff is, but to storm off.
Yeah.
This can be helpful.
All right, we got one more card, but I think there's probably a little bit more discussion around this one, so it's probably a good one to end on.
Sounds
good. This is Sleight of Hand. Single blue mana for a sorcery. Look at the top 2 cards of your library. Put one of them into your hand, and the other on the bottom of your library. So for those that don't know, this is a reprint of a cantrip that at one point was very playable. We have a whole lot of cantrips and have gotten kind of a flurry of new ones recently. What do we think about this card, and where do we think it falls in the lineup of modern legal cantrips?
So it is it's funny that like Opt was like not a card we got in standard.
Right.
And we got Opt, it was like, oh my god, they printed Opt in standard. Right. And then they were like, oh, we can do one better. How about
Consider.
Consider?
Yeah.
Right. So I think you have to look at it in like, if you look at it in modern, it is under Consider and Preordain, depending on which one you want to put, one or two. And then probably worse than Opt because this is a sorcery as opposed to an instant.
Yeah.
So maybe it's the fourth best cantrip.
Which probably makes it not playable, right?
Yes, I think
because you're not going to play
is
16 cantrips in a deck.
No, I think you're on like Preordain, Consider.
Yeah.
And then probably no other cantrips.
Right.
And I think that in Pioneer, it may be like very like deck specific. So let's say you're like a combo deck.
Mm-hmm.
Like I could see like Lotus Field playing this card because you get to look at two cards right away.
Yeah.
And you really don't care about your graveyard being full.
Right.
Well, there might be other decks that would like prefer, like I'm putting kind of Consider at the top of the heap for a Pioneer.
Mm-hmm.
And then Opt and Sleight of Hand are, I think, 2 and 3, depending on
what you're trying to do.
What you're trying to do, exactly. Like, do you value, like, I don't have any interaction. That's not what I'm here to do. I value looking at two cards.
Right.
And picking the best of two cards. Or I have interaction and I want to, like, feign that I may have something. So I'd rather have Consider and Opt.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, like, I could have Spell Pierce, or I could cast my Opt. Whereas this is like, I definitely don't have Spell Pierce.
Right.
So I think it just depends, like, if you're, Neoform, right? Where you just like need to put together A plus B.
Yeah.
Right? Like this is probably better than like Opt as a cantrip if you would have built the deck that way.
Yeah. I think you're 100% right on every count. I think it's congratulations. I think it's weaker than every other option, and we already have redundancy with cantrips, so I don't necessarily think that it's reprinting here changes anything.
Yeah, I mean, even if you think about like Delver and Legacy, like the deck that you associate with
cantrips
having the most cantrips,
yeah,
it plays 8.
Right.
Right? Like that's kind of how much room you have for fluff.
Yep.
Now, granted, they're 8 really, really good cantrips.
Right.
But like, I don't think that like Pioneer is a format that you could like have play 12 cantrips in your deck.
No.
And like, I mean, there's an argument that you could say that Lorien Revealed is better than Sleight of Hand.
That's true.
Right? Like a lot of times, like you play cantrips to let you cut your land count.
Yep.
And Lorien Revealed always lets you hit your second land if you have a land. Where Sleight of Hand where Sleight of Hand might not. So like Lorien Revealed might be ahead of Sleight of Hand.
Yeah.
So in modern at least. So yeah, 2 or 3 in Pioneer, depending on your situation, and like still not playable in modern.
Yep.
And if you are looking to get some Sleight of Hands, there's way better art.
Oh yeah, no, this art's not great. Crazy guy in a big hat.
Yeah, like I'm not like hating on the artist. Like a fine piece, but like the portal art, the guy like stealing the scroll.
Yeah.
or the like, the woman doing the John Cena. Nothing. You can't see me. Like way better. Like just get that thing in black border and we're set. And then like, the Eternal Masters art. No, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Art ranking. This is ahead of the Eternal Masters art.
And I wasn't expecting an art ranking today. I just figured we'd talk about it in the formats it was legal in.
Yeah,
but here we are.
In standard, like, do we have opt-in standard? We do, right? Or no? We have consider for sure.
Yeah.
But like, if you are an opt gamer, you may want to like, this might be your time here. Let's see. Is it currently standard legal? Are you standard legal? Survey says gatherer. It is legal in. It is not legal in standard. They don't even list standard as a format, so it must not even be like printed in the format. Yeah, the last time it was printed was Core 21. I do believe. Yeah. So, right, if you're someone who likes to play a lot of cantrips, like, you could consider plus sleight of hand.
Mm-hmm.
I also think that much like Memory Deluge, this was supposed to be our one standard cantrip.
Probably.
But consider's still hanging around.
Mm-hmm.
So there's probably we're gonna have like a year of like 2 1-mana standard cantrips.
Until rotation, at least.
Yeah, and I could definitely see, like, if you're playing fairies and you are kind of short of things to do on one.
Yeah.
Like playing sleight of hand to fill that hole. So, yeah. All right. We got to blue.
I think that's a pretty good place to stop. We did
all right, so
the signposts, white and blue. So we'll finish it up next week.
As we say with that, I think we got a show.
We got a show.
So if you want to reach out to us and say hey, talk about the old podcast, or you do have the ability to suggest a black, red, green, or colorless card
that is true.
We could add to the list between now and next recording. And if you're a patron, you already know what's coming.
Yeah.
So it makes it a little bit easier. But if you have something that you're like, oh, hey, I saw this card and thought it was super cool, now's the time.
Yep, now's the time. We only made it to, like, I think we only made it through, what's that? 25 cards.
So we still have like 30 left.
Yeah, we still got 30 left. So, yeah, if you got anything that you want us to talk about, hit us up. If you're looking to support the show, there's a couple different ways you can do it. The first is with our TCG Player affiliate link, CasualTryHard.com/TCG. Follow that link on over to TCG Player. Anything you purchase will help support the show. We would really appreciate it. If you want to support us more directly, Patreon.com/CasualTryHardMTG is where you can do that. You can chip a couple bucks in, however much you feel like we're worth. If you think we're doing a good job, you can contribute that way. Patrons get access to our show notes. They get access to our pre-show, and you get put on my mailing list for when I have cool swag to send out. If any of that sounds good, or if you just really like the job we do and want to show us your support, Patreon.com/CasualTryHardMTG. Look us up.
Yeah. All right. So with that, we'll catch you on the internets.
We'll catch you on the internets.